Do you find that a book somehow qualifies someone as an interview better than any other kind of media that you might get?
I think authors think that.
What do you think?
I'm probably too cynical to answer the question. I think that I believe that when you talk about writers, when you're a writer, E.L. Doctorow, Philip Roth, John Updike, and you're a writer, and you're going to talk to me about writing a novel, yes, you're qualified. No question about it. You have tremendous track record. You're amazing. If you are a political celebrity and you are a media celebrity and your book is out for whatever reason and you come on, then no. I mean, that almost hurts it for me, where I see somebody that will have a book from the extreme right or from the extreme left, and they're talking about people who are big and fat or idiots and dumb and stupid, and these are all the words. And that's just, I don't find that to be
What's Bill O'Reilly's
interesting.
Book? Something in Patriots?
Yes, Bill O'Reilly has a new book out. Glenn Beck always has a book out. And David Limbaugh's book was, as of this taping, #1 on the nonfiction bestseller list. So there are books that I find, and it's not because of the politics, it's because of the person that we're going to be talking to, that I just don't feel that you can have. It's talking to a politician. It's you're going to get the spiel, and you're not going to get anything meaningful. You're not going to get the meat and anything intellectually stimulating. And it's not worth me spending the time talking to that person, and it's not worth reading the book to prepare for it either, because it really doesn't matter.
So those aren't people you would tend to want to interview? I
mean, sometimes you want to. For example, if the former First Lady, Laura Bush, writes a book, I wanted to have her on the show, and we did have her on the show, and she was excellent. And I told the publicist, I said, I'm not interested in finding out what her thoughts are on her husband's presidency. I'm not interested in finding out about what she makes of his legacy. The questions that everybody else was asking. What I'm interested in, because you have to think of how we fit also into, and this plays into my mind of how we fit into the schedule of the day on our radio station. So we are a national public radio affiliate. So if Laura Bush has been interviewed on Morning Edition, and then she's been interviewed on Terry Gross, and then I have her on the show, I want to do something that's different. I want to do something that is not this, why did you write the book? What is it? Something that I would perhaps with somebody who would not be on one of those programs. So what I'm interested in finding out with her was the library aspect, reading, having that be a big part of her term as First Lady, making that a priority, literacy, and how she came to that love of books. We had a really interesting conversation about how all the books in her library are by the Dewey Decimal System, so are mine. So there's that common bond. So there's great interest in something like that. Jimmy Carter's book, A White House Diary, we had him scheduled. He got ill, and then the tour was canceled, so he won't be on. He's been on in the past. He's great. I mean, he's the former president of the United States, so why wouldn't you want to have him on?
Right.
But that's different than someone who is a media celebrity who is just out there to yell and scream and to pick a fight with you for no reason. I mean, I had Chris Matthews on the show, and of Hardball from MSNBC.
You actually got to talk?
And well, I mean, he was ready for a fight 2 seconds into it, and he just turned on me, and I finally said, look, I'm not fighting with you. I'm asking you questions, And these are legitimate questions. So you can make it seem like I'm ganging up on you, but what I'm asking you is a serious question, and you can either choose to answer it or not answer it. And I don't find that. Now, some radio hosts would find that to be gold. That's like, it doesn't get better than that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying what we do is better, but it's different, and I don't want that. I want to have a discussion. I don't need the yelling and the screaming. We have enough of that, in my opinion. So I try to stay away from situations that could go that way.
But in the other sense, of course, you know that Chris Matthews is hot, right? So he came out with that book. I forgot the title of it. He's on a studio chair and lights are on, and he's had a few of them now. Yeah, go ahead, hit me. So you've got to talk. It's almost like you got to talk about him in his book, whether you want to or not.
Right, and talk about. But see, I'm interested in. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm interested in what he is. In what he looks for. I'm interested in what makes his show. I'm interested in why people have to yell. I'm interested in what his audience and who he feels his audience is, and how he sees the cable landscape. And those are the kind of things that I care about, that I want to investigate. And he may just want to bash someone, and that's fine. But I'm not personally interested in that.
If you were ever going to get around to writing a book, what genre would it be in?
I have no idea. I've always thought, much like a short story writer or a poet, I would probably choose a genre that would be the least read of any, and for me, it would probably be a book about writing. I've interviewed enough great novelists that I would love to put together all of the interviews and the wisdom that they have shared over the years. And I've made it a concerted effort to talk to the great novelists of our day, and people who are considered to be either reclusive or don't do interviews, to really try to get those people to open up and to have some dialogue, because I think that we can have discussions about what the great American novel and the novel and what the status of it is, and will it last, and what's going to happen. But if anything does happen to it, the process that these writers have gone through, these really great writers, I think it should be documented somewhere. And it is in many cases, but in a lot of cases it's not.
Have you got, well, it would be a unique approach to it.
Yeah.
Have you got a short list?
Well, I have a list of people that I've interviewed, and then I have a list of people that I would, die to interview. They're people that I feel are great writers. Of some have just recently passed, Norman Mailer and Kurt Vonnegut, John Updike, and then Philip Roth, Saul Bellow, who also passed away, of course. And these are people who are Margaret Atwood, Toni Morrison, just the great writers of our time, Joyce Carol Oates, and people that I've been lucky enough to interview. People that I would love to interview who probably will never do an interview, Cormac McCarthy.
Yeah, he's tough to get.
Right, he just doesn't do it, and I don't blame him. But I'd love to do it, and I'd love to do Harper Lee. Wow, yeah. Of course, so would everybody else. Right? Get in line. Right.
Well,
hello, Oprah.
Yeah, hi. There must be some kind of little hook there, though. I like your idea. It's really playing editor. Like taking pieces of their work or pieces of interviews that you would do with them about their thing. It's the Paris Review kind of thing where you get to sit down, do craft interviews or that kind of thing? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I did an interview with Stephen King of about 2 or 3 years ago, and we were doing an interview on a stage, and it was actually 2 years ago, and it was the day after President Obama won the election. And we were at Mount Holyoke College, and we were sitting backstage, and the place is just mobbed, and there's great energy in the room, and it's a really interesting dynamic. It's a college campus, and it's very cool. And I'm sitting backstage, and we're having a conversation and bad pizza and just talking. And the one book I wanted to have him sign is a book that he wrote shortly after his accident, where he was hit by a car, and it was called On Writing. And he said, this book came out of a conversation that I had with novelist Amy Tan, known for the Joy Luck Club. And it came out of that experience. And I'm having dinner with Amy Tan, and she said, I do 30, 40 book events for each book, and there's always a Q&A session, and nobody ever talks about the language. Nobody ever talks about the words.
All right.
They talk about the topic, they talk about the celebrity, but they don't talk about the language. They don't talk about the actual craft. And I realize that is always something I've been interested in, and it's always been a part of my interview. Now, I'll talk about the other stuff too, but it's always integrated into a conversation. And that it is a little bit different because not a lot of people do talk about it, about that process. And I find that really interesting. What grabs us? What makes us want to read? What's the difference between a short chapter and a long chapter?
I would want to read that.
Yeah.
So you got one sold.
Well, there you go. Now I just have to go and sit down and listen to about
who knows how many interviews.
400 hours worth of tape.
Yeah. Well, everybody has to pay their penance.
Right. Yes.
We've been talking with Joe Donahue, stellar bookman from WAMC Radio. I'm your host on Today's Author, Gary McLeod. Thanks for being with us.